Welcome to another international podcast on Metallwoche. Today we have Gerald Celente in our show again. Gerald is the director of the TrendsResearchInstitute and publisher of the TrendsJournal. Many consider him as one of the top trend forecasters in the world. Without any further delay, we connect over to Kingston, New York to Gerald Celente. Welcome back to our show, Gerald.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Gerald, I know that you are in the last preparations to publish a new Trends Journal. Maybe you can give our listeners a short overview. What are the main topics of the coming one?
Well, first of all, it's 60 pages, advertising free, and plus illustrations. It's a real beauty. And the top trend, unfortunately, that we're looking at is war. And, of course, now we've seen the French now are in Mali, and things are still heating up and getting worse in Syria. And now the Saudis are clamping down in their provinces as well, Shias that are revolting in some oil-rich areas. And then, of course, we have the problems still going on in Bahrain and in Yemen. And Egypt, of course, is unstable as well with the new Muslim Brotherhood government. And when you look across the world and you look right what's going on in Europe with these draconian austerity measures that have thrown so many people into poverty and pushing people into crime, you can see destabilization taking place. And here's France with, their economy teetering on recession, Hollande extremely unpopular, and they have that new neo-colonial dig going on, going back to, what did they call it before? French Sudan? Yeah, French Sudan from about 1896 to 1960, and maybe French Sudan again. And, of course, it's the United States with their AFRICOM unit in there. And it really has nothing to do about freedom and democracy. It has to do with all the minerals and natural resources and roots that they want. So it has nothing to do with bringing freedom and democracy to the impoverished people of Mali or anywhere else. And then what we're looking at is when you follow this story, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because as the French fighter jets are bombing the hell out of the place, the Islamists are saying that they're going to attack France. No kidding. As we used to say in the Bronx, payback's a bitch. So what we're looking at, you see, Michael, is more and more volatility worldwide, and the worse it gets, the more governments clamp down on their citizenry, as we have right here in the States. So that's the bad news. And on the economic front, we're looking at more of the same but worse. I get a kick out of these reports that keep coming out that say things are getting much better. We just heard from Mario Draghi, of course, from the European Central Bank, saying that things are improving, the worst of the euro crisis is over. And now, of course, we're seeing the data coming out of Germany and yes, how there's a downturn. Was it down? The economy dropped, 0.5%, I believe? Is that accurate?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
There's no recovery, and all they're doing is pumping more money into the systems. And not only the United States, now they have the new prime minister over there in Japan, Abe. And what did Abe do? Abe has now pushed the Bank of Japan to loosen up on the dough. Same thing in China. All of these projects that are going on are being funded by the state. So the economy is more of the same but worse, but going toward flashpoints. On other issues, on a more positive issue, we're, for the people that are really in the entrepreneurial spirit, we're looking at a new millennium style of education. I wrote Trends 2000 back in 1996, and I came up with the term interactive U. And remember that 1996, the internet revolution really didn't kick off until around 93, 94. So this is pretty new for the time. And what's going to happen, and as we're looking at it, for example, this past Christmas, children's toy sales were down. Kids are buying more iPads than toys. So the point being, for better and for worse, these kids' minds are wired different. Nobody's ever grown up like this before. So the educational system's going to have to they don't have to readjust, but they will readjust. It's a whole new different methodology of learning. And what we believe is going to happen, and this is really groundbreaking at a lot of levels, just as you saw in the old days of industrialization, where you would have these massive factory floors, kind of like China, where you have all of these people putting together assembly line pieces. And then it broke down into smaller units as robotics became more efficient and machinery took the place of machinists. The same thing is going to happen with the teacher business. You're not going to have as many teachers needed anymore. You're going to have more highly specialized teachers teaching masses of children via the new wired technology. This is only in its early growth stage. It's an infant. It's just being born. So that's another new exciting trend.
Gerald, I saw that there are some universities coming up now on the internet offering education for free. And they came up with a concept that they say, oh, look, especially in the States, students are full in debt. So we should give them all the lessons for free. I learned in my life there's nothing for free.
Yeah, they'll come up with some gimmick. But even so, what it has done, it's broken the paradigm. And it's now making it acceptable. And, there is free, for example. Yeah, there's a cost to it. But when you look at the cost, for example, in the United States of going to university, on average, a kid gets out of college and owes $27,000. I mean, come on. What are you kidding? Yeah. What did you get for that? That's on average. I know a young girl that I know, she's 23 years old, and she has $120,000 worth of debt. So the point being, Michael, now the Internet, for example, it's almost like the new Alexandrian library. How many of us, when we need some information, go to Google or Wikipedia or wherever and scour the Internet for information? So, yes, it's free at some point. There's a cost at another point. But I really think this is a whole new paradigm.
I saw yesterday an article published by the New York Times with the title Live in Red. So they are talking about people who cancel already everything. They cancel the cable, they skip the air conditions, they ration the cell phones, and they are more and more in debt there. So that is the other coin of the medal, huh?
Yes. Look, this country's going down so fast. Hey, listen, we got wars to fight. We got drones to send out. We don't have any money for the people over here. I'm telling you, it's a disgrace what's happening over here. Not far from where our place is in colonial Kingston, New York. It's a mixed area over here. You go a couple of blocks away, it's a different world. You say, oh, my God. It's really third world. As a matter of fact, it gives third world a bad name. And I mean that. I mean, these people are out of their minds. They have no future. They have no education. They have a mother that's whacked out on meth. They don't know who the father is. And they're drugged out. And what is the government doing? They're giving them more drugs. They're putting them on Ritalin, Zoloft, rather than facing the social issues.
For my next question, I have to introduce a little bit longer, but I like to give you a chance to explain and also to give a straight answer, because I know that you will give a straight answer. There is a lot in the news right now regarding gun control in the US. I know that you were very depressed about the massacre in the school of Newton, where 28 very young kids got killed. On the other hand, I know it because I watched your trend in the news. You got very angry about Piers Morgan propaganda show on CNN about gun control and where he called the US Constitution a little book and the right to have arms absurd. A lot of people in Europe, they really don't understand the whole discussion, because for them it is normal not to have arms. So they don't understand this, and I think there's a lot of propaganda in the news, not even in the US, but in Europe as well. I would like that you maybe explain a little bit, not only why you get angry on Piers Morgan, I understand this, but on this whole discussion.
The Constitution was put in place, and they gave the people a right to bear arms because we did have a revolution in this country. And the revolution was against, of course, Piers Morgan's hometown, the UK. And they always believed in America that any government could turn tyrannical. And I don't have to tell you over there in Germany. And I don't have to say anything about Italy. There's many countries where you have advanced populations and societies, and all of a sudden madmen take over. In the United States, we have been losing our constitutional rights, beginning with Bill Clinton, escalating under Bush, and going into high gear with Obama. Michael, this isn't rhetoric. It's fact. They've taken away, right now, they could be listening to us right now. Matter of fact, I could get arrested after getting off this broadcast with you, because El Presidente of Los Estados Unidos could declare me talking to a terrorist over there in Germany. That's right. My having connections with a terrorist. I have no writs of habeas corpus. What does this go back to? What, the 1300s? I have no lawyer, no charges. I have no trial. I can't even contact anybody. As a matter of fact, the military could come and take me away and kill me. That's right. Obama signed that law in the National Defense Authorization Act in 2011, New Year's Eve. They also passed laws of warrantless wiretapping. They could wiretap anybody. They can follow anybody anytime they want for as long as they want. And they can now do algorithms to determine whether or not you have a criminal disposition. That's their rationale for watching everybody. It's one right after another being taken away from us. This is just another right. I will give you an example. Now, gun control. There are over 300 million guns in the United States. 80% of the violent crimes caused with guns are caused by gangs. And guess what? They're all illegal guns. You take the guns away from the people, the criminals have them. There are 300 million. Gun control will be as successful as Prohibition was, as successful as their baloney war on drugs. That's cost over $1 trillion and made trillions of dollars for the criminal industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the private prisons in the United States that have them filled up with people for victimless crimes. It will be a waste of money. And finally, yesterday, they just sentenced someone in New York City for setting a woman on fire in an elevator. The same day, someone burnt down an apartment building in New York City as a revenge against his girlfriend and killed her and some other people seriously wounded. I got an idea. Let's ban matches. No, really. I mean, I say only one match in a book. What no one's talking about, Michael, are all of these psychotropic drugs that every one of these lunatics have been on. The ones that the big pharma is selling. Every one of these people, you look at the mass murders that have happened in the United States, Columbine, all of them, every one of these kids where they're releasing the records was whacked out on either Zoloft, Ritalin, Prozac, you name it. And the other issue is, why didn't the mother have the guns locked up when she has a lunatic kid in the house? That's already a problem child. So guns aren't going to solve the problem. In New York, they just now have they're only allowing you to have 7 bullets in a magazine. Oh, that's going to make a big difference. What official jerk came out with the number 7? I'll tell you who. 7 official jerks, or maybe a whole commission of them. This will do nothing. It's a culture of violence. Listen, Obama's sending drones into foreign countries every day. You want to talk about mass murder? How about Vietnam? How about Iraq? How about Afghanistan? How about what's going on around the world? And who's doing it? Obama, Cameron, Sarkozy, and Blair before them. And now the Germans are sending troops and Patriot missiles down to Turkey on the border of Syria. You want to talk about mass murder? Let's start from the top. The fish rots from the head down. It's a culture of cruelty. And the world leaders, listen to that little weenie over there, Hollande, talking tough about what he's going to do to destroy the Islamists in Mali. What's he going to do? That little wimp couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. He's setting other people to go do mass murder. Who are they killing with these airstrikes? Oh, no, these are bombs that only hit Islamists. Civilians, no, they're only collateral damage. It's hypocrisy. All these liberals screaming out about gun control, they need leader control.
I agree. I agree completely on this with you, Gerald, and I just want to bring in, because we have different listeners from different countries as well. Germany is heavily on exports on arms as well. The easiest way, I learned from history, Gerald, the easiest way to enslave people is by destroying their currency. Is this something what we are watching? More and more, every government is trying to devalue its own currency, of course, to stay in for growth, for the exports, of course. What's your view on the dollar?
You know, the dollar's staying where the dollar is because everybody's doing the same thing. I mean, who would have believed that the Swiss, the money cockroaches of the world, would be devaluing their currency to get caught up in the same game? You know, so as long as everybody devalues, you know, all ships are sinking. But all the currencies are becoming worth less. And that's why, of course, I'm bullish on gold and silver, and remain so.
Gerald, when you heard yesterday and probably this morning now in Kingston that Germany is bringing back home its gold reserves, 700 tons in total. They are taking the gold completely out of Paris because now France is joining the euro, therefore we don't need this anymore there. And they will even bring back roughly 300 tons of gold from New York. There was a nice quote from Bill Gross from PIMCO yesterday. Everyone is using Twitter, and he said, "What's up? Our central banks don't trust each other anymore?"
I think everybody knows that this can only last so long. You can't keep printing worthless money, not worth the paper it's not printed on. Nothing like this has ever happened in history. You know, Michael, people talk about the New World Order as though it's an Illuminati. If there wasn't an Illuminati, the un-Illuminati are running it when you look at the clowns in control. The New World Order is the banking order, and it's out of order. You know, I say this in not a religious context, but in a factual, not a factual one, but in a biblical sense. You know, the story of Jesus Christ driving the money changers out of the temple. And when you really think about it, I mean, this is the Prince of Peace. He picks up a whip to drive the money changers out of the temple. They were destroying the people back then, and they're destroying them once again. They've only changed their names. They went from money changers to loan sharks, to Credit Suisse, to the Goldman Sachs gang, to the Deutsche Bank bandits. It's the same banking criminality. Listen to the words of the UBS chairman recently about how arrogant the bankers had become and how they have to do things to get back on track and do ethical business. What a bunch of BS. And who could get away with it? Have you seen one head roll? They rigged the whole LIBOR scandal. The whole thing has been rigged. They're rigging interest rates. They're rigging everything. So of course Germany's bringing home the gold because they're smart enough to know that this game is going to run out. And Hugo Chavez, of course, is way ahead of the game, demanding that the gold be taken out of the Bank of England and brought back to Venezuela.
Any news from MF Global?
Yes, good news. Looks like we're getting 93% back now. Last time it was 80%. So, and there's word that we might get all of it back.
Funny enough, but the last thing I heard, there's still no trial going on against Corsino.
Well, there shouldn't be. What's wrong with you? He's one of them. He's a white shoe boy. They don't get it's justice, Justus, just us. Look what they did to this poor kid that committed suicide in the States, that wanted free access to the internet and hacked into some sites, how they hounded him. Look at the wars that George W. Bush started, and Cheney and Rumsfeld and Blair on fake information. There's no war trials. There's not, as I said, under Obama, not one head is rolled on the banking scandals. All they do is get fines, and they're fine because those fines aren't very big, and their lives go on just the way they are.
You always said nothing will change if people don't change. Any message for 2013 for our listeners, what they can do on themselves, for themselves, to change their life a little bit?
Well, one of the big trends we're going to have in the Trends Journal is the Great Awakening. Prior to the Revolutionary War in the United States, there was a religious revival. And part of that revival was, there were two elements of it. One, that you didn't have to have one church. You know, the Puritans were very tight. They were the first group here. And then, of course, the Calvinists came, the Huguenots, a whole bunch of different groups. And it started loosening up. Okay, you could all have your own religion. And then the next level was, and that there is no hierarchy to tell you how to attain salvation, if you believed in salvation. And that it was really up to you. It was the life that you lived. And how you behaved on this earth would bring you into the past, whatever the past was that you believed in. From that came the American Revolution. It was also the realization of not looking up to nobility, that their blood was no better than anybody else's. It wasn't royal blood, it was just plain old blood. And the people revolted against the king and the noblemen and the lords. It was the same as what's happening now. We have a new nobility. Listen, every time your chancellor, prime ministers, or presidents show up, it's red carpet time. It's that they roll them out. It's a big deal. They have all these clowns dressed up in these costumes. They salute them. It's a whole show. Nothing has changed. So the message is for everybody to rise to the highest levels, for everybody to really find the greatness within themselves, for everybody to bring that special gift that they have and keep working on it and making it better and better and trying to do the best they can to do as much as they can for as many as they can, but beginning with themselves, from themselves to the community, from the community to the region, from the region to the state. When the people change, everything will change. That's my firm belief.
Gerald, if people want to subscribe to the Trends Journal, what do they have to do?
TrendsJournal.com, TrendsJournal.com.
This was Gerald Celente, Director of the Trend Research Institute and publisher of the Trend Journal. Thank you very much again for joining us on Metallwoche, Gerald.
Hey, thank you, Michael.